Honor, may I please approach the bench?
I am tired and very cranky.
I know, but this is just wrong, isn't it?
One more word out of you, and I'll hold you in contempt.
I hold myself in contempt! Why should you be any different?
Bailiff, take him away.
Yo, what's up, guys? Your boy Betty. So bombshell stuff out of the fraudulent New York Trump trial. This thing is rigged, and Alvin Bragg just gave the entire game today. The district attorney tried to refer Donald Trump to jail for 30 days. Why? Because he violated his gag order. So, one, they are stopping a presidential candidate from speaking, and two, they want to put him in jail for 30 days because he's practicing the First Amendment? Yeah. This is a totally rigged scam. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. However, the entire thing is rigged, right? So here is Alvin Bragg referring Donald Trump for prosecution this morning for speaking freely, trying to lock up Joe Biden's political opponent before anyone even concludes what happened in the trial.
10:31, we got some news from inside the courtroom. Apparently, the district attorney's office has filed a written motion, so they have made it official to try and hold Donald Trump in contempt for violating the gag order that was put onto him by the judge. Well, I guess there were 3 allegations that the state made yesterday. And if the allegations hold up, Trump would be fined $1,000 for each violation.
That's right.
As we have covered extensively, this is one of the most fraudulent cases in American history. The fact they're trying to lock up a presidential candidate, a president for this is, there's no words for it. There's no words for it. I don't know if we have a country. Do we have a country anymore? Here's what Donald Trump said this morning outside of the court.
Thank you very much. This is a trial that should have never been brought. It's a trial that is being looked upon, looked at all over the world. They're looking at it and analyzing it. Every legal pundit, every legal scholar said this trial is a disgrace. We have a Trump-hating judge. We have a judge who shouldn't be on this case. He's totally conflicted. But this is a trial that should never happen. It should have been thrown out a long time ago. If you look at Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, all great legal scholars, there's not one that we've been able to find that said this should be a trial. I was paying a lawyer and marked it down as a legal expense. Some accountant, I didn't know, marked it down as a legal expense. That's exactly what it was. And you've been indicted over that? I should be right now in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in many other states, North Carolina, Georgia, campaigning. This is all coming from the Biden White House because the guy can't put 2 sentences together. He can't campaign. They're using this in order to try and win an election. And it's not working that way. It's working the opposite way. So check that out. Legal expense. It's called legal expense. That's what you're supposed to call it. Mr. Trump, you get indicted on that. Nobody's ever seen it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. So thank you very much for coming. I'm now going to sit down for many hours. I am now going to sit down. The voters understand it. All you have to do is look at the polls. This is a sham trial, and the judge should recuse himself because it's totally conflicted. Thank you very much.
In case you need a good breakdown on what's actually happening here from a legal perspective, Jonathan Turley, who's a legal professor, a lawyer himself, and a scholar of the Constitution, had this to say on Fox about the speciousness and the bold-faced insanity of these charges.
Is this one in court?
Well, there's a novel question, John. I'm not sure. I mean, this is a Frankenstein case. They took a dead misdemeanor, they attached it to a dead alleged federal felony and zapped it back into life. So many of us are just amazed to watch this actually walk into court because it's not a recognizable crime that any of us have seen. It does not appear to be a federal crime, but that's the theory that Bragg is using. So to go into the Wayback Machine, this state misdemeanor died because of the statute of limitations. Then what Bragg said was, well, I'm going to allege that you who did false filings on business records to hide a crime. But he was very ambiguous what that crime might be. He still is ambiguous. But it is assumed to be a federal election crime. The problem is the federal government doesn't view it as a crime. They decided not to prosecute, and most election experts say that this is the type of thing that's failed in the past. So this bizarre indictment is now going to be an equally bizarre trial. And to this day, there's some confusion as to Bragg's actual theory as to what was the exact crime that Trump was hiding from all this.
Right. This is what the Wall Street Journal said about Bragg trying to bootstrap this up to a federal felony. He said, quote, 7 months before the 2024 election, it's a trial that shouldn't happen in a case Mr. Bragg shouldn't have brought. The Stormy affair was sordid business, but the DA's argument is a legal stretch in ways that might bother a skeptical juror or an appeals court. So they're in jury selection for probably the next couple of weeks or so. Will the prosecution find jurors that are favorable to its case, or do you think jurors have already made up their minds to say, as you have said, why the heck is this even in court?
Well, look, this is the worst jury pool that Trump could pull unless you just took everyone at the DNC headquarters. I mean, it is as bad a pool as you can get. Now, that doesn't mean that they throw up their hands. They're not going to try to find someone who likes Trump. That's just, there's not many people available that fit that description in Manhattan. What they're looking for is someone who is independent, maybe a little feisty. You're going to have jury advisors there, looking for people that have great conviction and confidence. They may dislike Trump, but you want people who like the law more. And that's what you're really looking for. You're also looking for what I call a Trojan juror. These are jurors who will lie to get into a high-profile case, yes, and they'll be hiding within them bias and past conduct that they won't reveal. That you can often find out through social media. So there's a lot of work that's going to have to be.
And since Donald Trump isn't allowed to speak for himself, Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, has been speaking for Donald Trump and spoke last night on Fox News talking about what they are doing to the president and what this means for our country.
Before the election, 8 years later, statute of limitations have passed. They upgrade a misdemeanor and try and use a federal crime to charge Trump. Your reaction to all of it?
I think there's a couple facts that the American people need to know. You mentioned that Cy Vance didn't bring this case because he knew it was a loser case. The statute of limitations had run, and it was based on the now debunked former attorney, Michael Cohen. So what ends up happening, Sean, let's talk about a key part of history here. President Trump announced that he was running for office again. And sure enough, D.A. Bragg indicts. You just played D.A. Bragg's video footage, much like Miss James, who you and I have spoken many times about, who are these Soros-backed, politically motivated people who come out and say, I know Trump well, I'm going to do it again. I did the Trump case, I did that case. Listen, Judge Merchan, Sean, the judge that's hearing this, did the Alan Weisselberg case, put him in jail, not once, twice. You know who else Judge Merchan's having? Steve Bannon. He has Steve Bannon's case. This is no coincidence, and the American people need to know, and for the next 6 weeks, I assure you, I will be loud and clear about what is going on here. This is political. It's election interference. You're not even allowing a father, never mind a former president, but a father attend his son's graduation. And let's not forget Passover. Okay? Observant Jews have a right to go and pray to who they want and observe Passover. And this judge would not allow it, not for any of the attorneys. And there are observant Jewish attorneys on the Trump team and as well on the DA team. It's just a sad state of affairs for the American people. I can assure you of that.
Well, I mean, I've said I don't believe the president can get a fair trial in New York, D.C., Fulton County, Georgia. I just don't believe it's possible. And if Democrats and these radical prosecutors have their way, all these trials would take place, and he'd be in a courtroom the entire 203 days leading up to the election. That's the America we're going to live in?
Yeah, that is. And meanwhile, Hunter Biden hasn't seen a courtroom other than for when his plea agreement fell through because the judge read the fine print and saw that he was going to get immunity. You know, not even allowing a person due process, the right to go sit in front of the Supreme Court and hear a case that determines many lawsuits that are currently against President Trump on immunity, on grounds for immunity. Let's not forget something here, Sean. President Trump was in Washington when this case was going on. When this is happening, when somebody made a notation in an accounting record at Trump Organization, he was in Washington taking care of this country. The absurdity is beyond. And I'm going to be talking about it loud and clear so that everybody knows how corrupt New York State has become.
All right, Alina, we'll be